p.m. We're Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss the 2021-2022 official school budget and proposed 2021 tax rate. For purposes of the minute, that the minutes reflect that Mr. John A. Pope IV is present, Noe Castillo, Mr. Basilio Di Villarreal,
Present.
Mr. J. Peña,
Present.
and myself are present for the public meeting. Mrs. Robles, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. We're here to discuss the 2021-2022 tax and budget public hearing. And I would just like to remind you that our fiscal year will be running from July 1st through June 30th of 2022. The next slide that you will see here, it's showing you the process for the tax rate adoption for July 1st districts. And the first bullet that you see there is July 9th, and that is when we publish the notice of the meeting to discuss the budget and the tax rate. The next bullet that you see is June 22nd, which is tonight, the board meeting to adopt the budget. At this point, we will not be adopting our tax rate because the published tax rate that you saw in the newspapers was calculated based on the preliminary values issued by the appraisal district. And to levy a tax or to calculate a tax rate, you need the certified values. The next bullet that you see is July 18th through August the 1st, and this is when TEA will be collecting data from our district property values to calculate the Tier 1 tax rates for the MNO. Now, August 11th, that's the final date for the maximum compressed rate. If that rate set and certified by TEA is not appealed, it is considered final. The next bullet is August, and we have a question mark, and that is to republish the notice to discuss the tax rate. By law, if the tax rate that you publish is lower than the tax rate that you will be adopting, you need to republish. And I would just like to let you know that in the published tax rate, we did not include the new bonds. By law, we cannot levy a tax on bonds that have not been sold. We were authorized by the voters or taxpayers to sell bonds, but they have not been sold at this time. And the final bullet is September 30th, or 60 days after the certified appraisal roll by the appraisal district. And that is the last day that we have to adopt a tax rate. Any questions on this process?
I think we're scheduled to go out to sell bonds at the end of this month, right?
To price the bonds, yes.
Price
Price
them.
them out.
Right.
The next slide shows you our proposed or published tax rate, and you will see that for maintenance and operations, we are proposing 99.59 cents, and we are predicting that that is what is going to be certified by TEA. Now, the interest in sinking, we published it at 26.28, and let me remind you again that the new bonds are not included in this rate. So published rate was $1.2587. We are seeing a total decrease from last year with this published rate of 4.19 cents. Again, this does not include the new bonds.
What would be the impact if it includes the new bonds? Just
If I am not
Ballpark,
mistaken, I believe Dr. De Los Santos mentioned that 7 cents would be the highest that it would be, starting from last year's rate.
and this one's lower by 4.
Yes, by 4 cents.
So, in effect,
It's gonna,
we're only increasing taxes, if that were to stand true, only 3 cents for the coming year, correct?
Yes,
So basically, if you add everything this year, really the effect of the bond would only be 3 cents, not 7
yes,
cents.
and that would all depend also on the final values by the appraisal district.
in past discussions, it was going to be 5 cents, right? So it actually is just 3 cents.
No,
No,
I think it was
seven-
7
seven
cents.
total.
Seven
It was 7 cents
Yeah,
always.
But the discussion was that 5 years from now, the effective tax rate on the interest and sinking would be lower 5 years from now. In other words, the tax rate, the interest and sinking is going to go down by more than 7 cents. So 5 years from now, there will be no effect from the bond issue, if I understand Mr. Los Santos
And
correctly.
just as a matter of comment, I know it doesn't include the bonds that are sold, but it also doesn't include a lot of the recent development that's going on, right? Because obviously that's not accounted for in the tax value, so it's possible,
Right.
right?
So if we
Values
So
are,
if
will
we
still
become
change.
richer as a district, do we get more money or do we get less money? Do you understand what I'm saying? In other words, let's say,
The
let's
higher
say
your
our
values,
were
the
300
lower
mil-
state aid that you will receive.
Yeah,
Because
let's
you
say
will
our-
be collecting more
Yeah,
taxes.
okay, let's say we had $300 million, or let's say $1 billion in our values, and all of a sudden we went to 1.4 billion, because supposedly the appraisal district appraised things kind of higher than they were. At a 1.4, do we get more monies for our district, or is it the same?
The state has a formula that says that all districts should be generating more or less the same revenues. So as your values go up, your state aid goes down. So they're maintaining a level across districts.
But isn't it true that there's places like Grapevine, Texas, and other ones that get more money because they're richer?
Well, that is true, but then they also have recapture.
They also have to what?
Recapture, state
Yeah,
aid
okay.
recapture
Yeah.
at the end, where
Yeah,
they have to
But they
pay
still
back.
make more money, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So in our situation, if the tax base gets more valuable, it's possible the state will readjust and reduce it.
Yes,
And which the tax base is going up.
Yes.
Because we've got the new stuff coming up across Walmart, which was not accounted for previously. So that's good news,
Yes.
I think, for the community. Okay. Cool.
How are property taxes calculated? The taxable value divided by 100, and then you multiply it by the tax rate. Our tax rate, or our published tax rate, is $1.2587. So you would take the average appraised value residence here within the districts of 61,442, less the homestead exception of 25,000. So we would have a total taxable value of 36,442. You would divide that by 100 and multiply it by the tax rate. So an average appraised value residence of 61,442 would be paying $458.70 for that year.
So I have a question for Ms. Laura. So let's say we have new home buyers, or we have people that are buying homes or building homes. How do we make them aware that there's a $25,000 exemption or home exemption? The appraisal district? Okay, do they do a good job sending notices? Okay, so you do notify them. Okay.
The next slide, this is found on page 1 of the booklet. This is the proposed annual budget. And our annual budget is composed of the Child Nutrition Program Fund, the General or Operating Fund, and the Debt Service Funds. So by law, we need to adopt a budget for those funds. And we will be reviewing each of those funds individually in the next slides. Now, the general fund found on page 4. This is obviously the most important one. We are projecting total revenues of $104,441,313, with total expenditures of $109,803,439. We are also estimating a transfer out of $2,100,000, and this is to cover some of the capital projects that we will be having this coming year. But we also have other resources as revenues of $4,395,604, and this is coming from the Chapter 313 agreements. So we are projecting a net change in fund balance of $3,066,522.
So correct me if I'm wrong, if we didn't have the $2 million that we're going to do in capital projects, really then we'd be looking at about 1.2, $1.3 million, correct?
It's less than $1 million, sir.
Okay.
966,000 more or less.
So the reason we have that is because we're doing capital projects.
Yes.
We're spending the money, basically.
Right, yes. You're investing in properties or buildings. The next fund is the Child Nutrition Program, and we are projecting revenues of $9,389,000 and expenses of $9,389,000, with a net change in fund balance of 0. The debt service fund, and this is the fund that is used to cover all outstanding debt for the district. We are projecting total revenues of $7,646,665, with also debt expenses of $7,646,665, with no change in the fund balance. Again, these revenues and expenses under the debt service does not include the new bonds. Once we calculate the new tax rate, we will have to calculate again this budget. And finally, we have the special revenue funds, and included in here are only those recurring federal funds that we receive every year, from Title I, Part A, to Migrant, to IDEA B, to Title III, and we are projecting, or we have planning amounts of $11,540,794. And this is for information purposes only. Questions?
Special revenue funds, any of those, any possibility of any of those being cut anytime soon? Or
No, as a matter of fact, I think they have been increasing steadily.
Certified tax rolls, we talked about that. By when do they have to certify the tax rolls?
July 25th?
July what?
July 25th.
25th. And we have to post our tax, effective tax rate by September?
Yes, well, 2 weeks before we hold that meeting to discuss the tax
So
rate again.
September 15th, I guess?
Yes, if we wait until then.
no decision being
If we
made
can
yet?
adopt the tax rate in August, I believe that would be even better.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? All right, I think that concludes the public meeting. It is now 6:13 p.m.